evening and welcome. My name's Imani Rupert Gordon, and I use she, her, and hers, or they, them, and theirs as pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director for Affinity Community Services. Affinity is a social justice organization, and we work with Black LGBTQ women and other LGBTQ communities of color on the south side of Chicago. We've been doing this work for 22 years and very excited to be here tonight. Before we get started, I want to thank Natasha, Affinity's amazing intern. She's been working really hard this week, and tonight she's here to answer phones. So if you remember, this is a call-in show. So if you have a question or you want to be part of the discussion, you can call in at 312-738-1060. Tonight we're going to be talking to Lasiyah Wade, and Lasiyah is the director for Brave Space Alliance. And Brave Space Alliance is a grassroots funded initiative created by trans and gender nonconforming people to center the most marginalized populations. Lasiyah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So let's jump right in. Lasiyah, why don't you start off by introducing yourself and telling us a bit about your professional background and what you do at Brave Space Alliance.
Well, you briefly introduced me. My name is Lasiyah Wade. I am the director of Brave Space Alliance. I'm also a facilitator and trainer across the nation. I work with major organizations such as TLC, Trinity Law Center, BLM, National, and many different organizations that help trans and nonconforming people change their policies to make space safer for them in the work environment or the community environment that they do.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for that. And I want to also give you a chance. Some of our viewers are unfamiliar with the Brave Space Alliance, and so I was hoping you could share a bit about your organization and what you all do.
So in recent years, especially here in Chicago, we have 2 trans women that was actually murdered. The first thing that we did, we was actually able to create a self-defense class that happens every Saturday. Excuse me. That happens every Saturday from 3 to 4:30 off of Stoney. What it is a free self-defense class, not only for LGBT folks, it's for the community and also trans and non-conforming folks as well. You get free mace. You can come every Saturday. As well as we give everyone $10 to get their carry permit. In the state of Illinois, you have to have a carry permit for tasers. So once you get the $10 and fill out the paperwork to do that, you come back with the license and we give you a taser. And we make sure we want to make sure that you can get home as safe as possible.
Gotcha. So it seems like you all take a lot of precautions and prepare folks to be safe in the communities in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So can you tell us about the work that Brave Space Alliance does and why it's particularly important in this particular political moment?
So we already know that hate crimes have already leveled up to 3 times than it has been in the past. What we're doing now, since we already started the self-defense class, we're creating the first trans and gender nonconforming led center in the south side of Chicago that will not only be LGBT, but it's become a community center that is actually led by trans and gender nonconforming folks to actually show themselves in leadership and also allow them to thrive where not normally trans and gender nonconforming people are in leadership.
Yeah. That's amazing. You know, you're talking about trans folks and trans women of color in particular, and I want to ask you. So when we say that trans women of color are prone to violence, what does that mean?
So when we talk about violence, we need to talk about intersections of violence, intersections of class, race, as well as sexual orientation, religion, and all these things that actually include. The highest rate of right now that we are normally seeing is economic violence that is actually prone in the trans and gender nonconforming community. Trans people are more likely to get a job that is up under minimum wage or at minimum wage where their counterparts are actually getting paid their worth in each particular space. And I can speak on my experience, right? I am college educated as well. I used to work in human resources, and I was working full-time in human resources. Most human resources make close to $40,000 a year. I was making half that. And I was pretty much the only one in there with a degree to do human resources and accounting work. So yeah, it actually comes due to economics, because most transgender nonconforming people have to go through street economics, as enough sex work and doing these particular things that they really don't want to do.
Yeah. Thanks so much for mentioning that. There was a report last year that talked about the discrimination that trans folks experience in the workplace, and that up to 80% of trans folks are reported having had an experience of being discriminated against at their place of employment. So obviously wage disparities, but having discrimination in other ways as well, and that's something that that makes working difficult.
Yes.
So I also wanted to talk to you about this because I got to see you a little bit this week.
Okay.
But Affinity thinks it's really important to provide opportunities for constituents to be involved in whatever processes that can make their lives easier. And so, one of our core components is finding ways to allow our constituents to be engaged civically. And so this week we got a bus along with some community partners and went to Springfield. And once we were there, folks had an opportunity to engage with legislators. Some people participated in a march. People were listening to bills on the floor being debated. It was really amazing. Like, people talked about having their interest in, bathroom bills, but then also interest in animal rights. So it really ran the gamut. And I was just wondering, until you were there, and I was wondering, what stood out to you about your time in Springfield?
Actually working with community. My main thing is actually an organizer. My base knowledge is organizing with people and what that looks like, and building from the base up. But I learned a lot. I really did. And I also perceive everything to be as in of we have to use everything our disposable that we can use to either make our lives better. Mm-hmm. But we can also maneuver our ways of how can we help each other first from community-wise. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? What does holding each other accountable before we have to go working from the outside in? Mm-hmm. We can work from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much learned what my base skills is organizing, but I push for my community to actually do everything else. Mm-hmm. With policies and politics, working with police and working without them, mm-hmm. And how that looks, and where we can begin that conversation of accountability process, or what is called accountability process, pretty much. And how that is structured within our own community and outside of our communities. Mm-hmm. So in this particular space, actually visiting and learning about how bills are done, mm-hmm. That's pretty much my skill. So working with Transgender Justice Law Project, mm-hmm. Them showing me the ropes of how pretty much the things work, and I help them get the numbers that they need to show up in particular spaces, to actually get them numbers that they need to actually push through laws, as well as the people knowing the laws that are actually need to be pushed through and also fought against.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think that's really important that you talk about lots of ways that people can be engaged and really highlighting the importance of community.
Y'all. Can you hear me? Hello?
I'm sorry, it sounds like there's a caller?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, my name is Jane. Okay, now what I was going to say is to the person who answered the call, now I was going to tell y'all, I don't hear some of the media, some of these activists, some of these politicians coming to y'all defense, but they always come in the African-American community, and they want, they want people to tell what happened to them, but I don't see nobody coming to y'all defense, you know what I'm saying? Like the media, and like what you were talking about, like the violence and stuff, like the transgender. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now I don't hear like this guy named Andre Holmes. He always comes to other people's defense, but I don't hear him coming to y'all defense. But y'all probably have other people helping y'all. But if he can help other people, he should help y'all too. But I don't know why. Ryan Manuel don't come to y'all defense either, or some of these politicians. Hello?
Yeah, I can understand that.
and then I don't get it, and then y'all just hear me just like everybody else.
Thank you
And
so
y'all
much.
doing a wonderful job.
No, thank you so much. That means a lot. I think the ways that, the work that LaSalle does with Brave Space Alliance and some of the work that we do at Affinity, working at intersections of identity, a lot of times there are communities that are that aren't very helpful in the work that we're doing, and that's something that we want to, part of the work that we're doing right here is really to talk more about the importance of supporting organizations like this. So we do appreciate your call in for your support of the work we do. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And it also is actually meeting where people are at, right? Mm-hmm. If I can't meet a pastor where he's at, I know a friend that actually can meet him where he's at and have that whole conversation that needs to be held. If I need to meet my girls on the streets that actually are worried about actually meeting me because of the position that I am in, I actually have a friend that can actually meet them where they're at. It's meeting people where they're at and learning actually how to have that kind of conversation and maneuver that conversation into what advocacy and activism, or also showing what accountability looks like and showing up for us.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So it looks like we have another caller. You go ahead and put them through.
Good evening. I hope you guys are having a good evening. My question is this, all right? When you look at the current, in terms of the executive branch of the government right now that's in, you can have all the laws you want put on the books, but who's going to enforce them? Because the minute the current executive branch came into government, you had a lot of your top civil rights lawyers quit. And that branch of the government, in terms of EECO and the rest of them, are being defunded. So who's going to enforce the laws then? So if we don't have the U.S. Attorney General is not really going to do it because he is dismantling that branch of the government.
Yeah, I think what we talked about earlier is finding a lot of different ways. We want to provide opportunities for people to be involved at many different levels to make sure that our communities are as safe as possible. There's always going to be something that makes this difficult, and so definitely there are some challenges, but that's why we have to be strategic and find multiple ways to do our work to create change in our communities. Thanks so much for your question. So also, getting back to Springfield, I was surprised to hear you speak in the rotunda.
Yes.
So that was actually a wonderful surprise. But for those of you that have never been to the Capitol building, in the middle there's this rotunda, and it's a beautiful, beautiful building. And this was my first time being there. But on this particular day, it seemed that there were people that were talking about their organizations and the work that their organizations do, and then also what they'd like to see in the future. And that was something that was really, really beautiful. But I was wondering if you could share with us, like you were up there speaking, what was that like for you, and how did it make you feel?
It made me feel amazing at that particular time. It was overwhelming for me to get the yells that I got, the call outs, like the name yells, and to actually see the young folks actually in the front on the floor, actually being there to listen to. It was amazing. It was amazing. And to speak about my experience for a brief moment, I also bring in accountability and action in the speech that I spoke about, and for especially dealing with Women's March.
Okay, gotcha. So what do you think you learned from there, and what do you think you're going to bring back to Brave Space Alliance?
What I learned? I need to do a lot more community building. I'm a base person. I actually work from the outside in, never from the inside out, never from the outside in. I learned that a lot of people don't understand what's happening with laws or how that works or how the system actually works. And it's our duty to help them understand as well, not only for myself, but for everyone else. Even though that we might not want to work with the system, we also already need to know it, and how laws are pushed through, and how we actually either vote against them or vote for them. Yeah, that's what I've learned.
Okay. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Well, it was really amazing to get to work with you in Coalition. I'm really excited about the time we got to spend there because I'm excited for the work that our organizations can do together. I was really thrilled about hearing about the work that you all are doing and going to be doing. So I'm excited to be part of that. I want to ask. We didn't talk about this earlier. What are the frameworks? What are the things that inform your work at Brave Space?
What informs my work?
Yeah.
What pushes me to do my work? Community fills me with energy. Mm-hmm. It fills me with energy. Mm-hmm. Being around other Black and brown folks, trying to make sure that we thrive at least. Mm-hmm. I just want to thrive. I'm tired of surviving and what survival tactics look like. How can we maneuver from surviving to thriving? Mm-hmm. And we are still in this base mode of surviving every day, right? Mm-hmm. So what will it look like if we can thrive? And that's the reason why I push forward on Brave Space.
Great, wonderful. It looks like we have another caller. Caller, go ahead. Caller, are you there?
Yes. Hi. I work in the LGBTQ community, and I'm watching your show, and I commend you. I happened to hear your speech, and I was very empowered by it, and I'm sure it empowered you. So continue that same confidence that I saw in you, and welcome to Sisters. Is there a current list of laws that exist on the books in Illinois and possibly the nation that affect transgender people now? And is there a list of possible laws that could be eradicated by the current administration?
Oh, that's interesting. So you're talking about an actual list that someone's created.
Yes.
I imagine that there is. The work that we do at Affinity isn't so much about this type of work, but I know that Equality Illinois does do work that's similar to that, and so you might go to their website. I know that they do have a lot of bills that they're working on, people that are doing work to do with with laws. I would start there. We've done some work with them in the past, and they do really great work, and so they actually may have a list on their website.
And also TLJP. TJLP,
yes.
Transgender Justice Law Project.
Yes.
I know they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's their main goal, is to push and actually fight against particular laws that's facing the transgender nonconforming community here in Chicago. Nationwide, that's pretty much not my lane. And I make sure that people that are actually doing the work actually get their voices heard through the community and what that looks like.
Get it out. It would be, I'm sure, helpful because we walk around here and we don't know what rights we currently have, and we don't know what rights are in jeopardy and what might come in the future. So if we know our rights to start with, we can begin from there,
Yes. So the TJLP actually has that information, and you can go there online and also Facebook as well to get the information from them. They're good friends of mine, and we do a lot of work together. But personally, what I do is organize people so they can actually go to their trainings about what's laws that you can actually use to protect yourself and also fight against. So that's a good resource to have.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you so much. So before the caller, we were talking, and you were talking about how important it is for the transgender community to thrive and not just survive. And I want to ask you, what does thriving look like to you? What would be in place, and what would that look like for folks?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
It looks like utopia, right? Utopia this like an illusion, a mirage that we know is unattainable right now. thriving can be as in of having not only a living wage, but actually a sustainable wage, right?
Yes.
Thriving can look like being able to have access to hormones or Medicare without paying for Medicare, right? Universal health care. A lot of people want to, capitalism is the main game in the world today, right? So yeah, that's what thriving looks like. Me not having to run to you to have a place, but I'm actually able to afford my own place. Me not having to take a second job or do street economics. I'm not speaking from my own living experience, but most people that I know have to either take an extra job or two or maybe three, or even do street economics to survive in this world. That's
Gotcha.
not thriving, that's just surviving.
Right, right. We want to make sure that everyone has access to resources. I mean, that is what makes it possible to have marginalized identities, which we don't want. But I also think it's really amazing that Brave Space Alliance, you all are looking for a space. Like, you want to be an organization that is run by trans and gender nonconforming folks located on the south side of the city. So providing access to resources. I know that that's something that's really important for Affinity.
Yes.
And it's important to see marginalized communities in positions of leadership, the people doing the work. So it's really amazing the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
No, that's
It's
amazing.
hard work. It's hard work. It's life work. I call it life work.
Yes.
It's life work. It ain't for everybody, but I love it.
No, I hear you. So I wanted to ask you, how can people get involved, and what kind of support do you need? If people are like, oh, I have a skill set, what would be helpful?
I mean, that's the first thing I ask for, right? I don't ask for what I need. I ask for what can you give? What resources do you have available, right? And most people won't be like, huh? What do you mean? But what are your skill sets that you can give, and what resources that you know you have that are available for you to have access to that you can give as well? But you can always reach me at LaSaya at bravespacealliance.org or reach us on bravespacealliance.org on the website, or even Facebook us, Brave Space Alliance.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
And so I want to ask if there's anything else you want to share with us. What do you have going on?
Yes, we actually have a big fundraiser that's happening tomorrow called the Unicorn Ball. As we know that unicorns, we don't put a gender on them, right? Most minorities of people will be like, okay, unicorn, like a beautiful horse, majestic creature, right? We give out 2 free drinks. It's a fundraiser for us. It's free to get in. We'll have amazing auction items, great shows, great entertainers, people just living their best life, queer, transgender, non-conforming, as well as the LGBT community. Comrades come through. It's going to be tomorrow on the 29th of April from 6 p.m. to midnight. You can look up unicornball.com, or you can even search Unicorn Ball on Facebook. And it's easy to search us now.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. So, Lasaya, it really was a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to know more about Lasaya or the work that they're doing at Brave Space Alliance, you can visit them again at bravespacealliance.org. And thank you so much for joining us. Remember, we are here the 4th Friday of the month, and we talk about issues and things related to LGBTQ folks, folks of color, intersections of identity. We talk about a lot of things about gender. And if you ever have topics that you want us to talk about, you can email me, Imani, IMANI, at affinity95.org, and we'd love to talk about what you want to talk about. So thank you so much. If you are interested in getting involved with Affinity, again, you can reach us at affinity95.org. It's always a pleasure to be here and to see you. So thank you so much again. It's a pleasure, and we'll see you next time. Take care.